Greetings Internet, welcome to Aaron Plays and I hope you're doing fantastically well. It's been a while, it's been a long while, it's been a lot longer than I thought it would be, but yeah, it's been 4 months since I've actually uploaded or done anything. Just life, pressures, etc. But I have been still playing. It's just coming home from work and I just didn't want anything to do with the computer or anything like that, so yeah. Even over the Christmas period I thought, I'm just not in the mood. However, today I played an absolute blinder of the first turn of a game, which you know is Air and Armour because you click the thumbnail and such forth. So yeah, Air and Armour Wurzburg. And Tom, the guy who actually introduced himself via watching one of my videos on the very first scenario, Thermopylae, back in sort of December 24. When I first got the game, I made a few videos then that were well received. And I've been playing the game on and off from there. And when Tom contacted me, he said, would you like to play a game? We played a game online and then we actually met up and played at a convention. And we've been playing since. And we're now up to doing scenario 7. He did a setup, which I uploaded onto my Vassal. And then we started a play-by-email game and we've completed the first turn. Now, I won't be putting the whole of the first turn in this video. This will be the first 2 activations. And I'll go through the scenario details and so forth when we go down to the map. But yes, so this is it. You know, quite a few scenarios I've played this. Still making rule mistakes. It is a complex system. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of the rules. Anything unusual or something I'll go into detail. If you don't know the game, there are plenty of videos out there by the actual designer explaining the rules and systems. You can also watch my videos. They are out there if you click on the other links and etc. But we are using for the first time hidden mode and to see how it works. And what hidden mode is effectively there are only the unit counters on the map, no actual steps, and neither player is fully sure of where their own units are and the enemy units. And 1, that helps solitaire play, 2, it helps play by email play, but 3, it also helps, well, Vassal live or even actual live play. So let's go down to the map and see what is going on. And here we are on the map, ready to begin. So what is actually going on? So we're playing the Wolf's Jaw, which is scenario 7 of the Air and Armour. You know, looking at the playbook and everything. So the scenario briefing. Now, there's quite a lot of verbiage in here, but so you know what's going on. So Warsaw Pact scenario briefing. To preserve surprise, the invasion has launched from barracks, with divisions thrown into the fray in whatever order they managed to reach the border. To make matters even more confusing, the first crossings took place just after midnight. Whole regiments got lost in the dark. On the other hand, NATO was caught totally unprepared, and resistance was surprisingly light. The 39th Guards Motor Rifle Division, the lead division of the 8th Guards Army, saw no serious action until 500 hours. When it attempted to punch between the positions of the US 1st and West German 35th Brigades. A fierce firefight erupted, with heavy losses to both sides. By dawn, however, the 39th had smashed past this resistance and was moving south again. All was proceeding according to plan. Then came the stunning news that in all of the confusion, none of the 8th Guards' other divisions had managed to cross the border yet. The 39th Guards was almost 50 kilometres deep into West Germany and alone. So now the briefing for the NATO. When the invasion materialised, it was a textbook nightmare that NATO officers had dreaded for decades. Everything was in chaos. Nothing was where it was supposed to be, and the enemy was crossing the border pretty much unchecked. The only good news was the Pact's nighttime invasion strategy meant that it could attack NATO's forward airfields only with missile strikes, and the accuracy of these missiles left much to be desired. The 2 forward brigades in the Wurzburg sector, the US 1st and West German 35th, were still trying to load most of their vehicles with fuel and ammunition when the lead elements of those 39th Guards crashed into the few companies that had managed to deploy. Those companies gave as good as they got, but were eventually broken by weight of numbers. Not until dawn of D+1 were all NATO troops in the sector finally on the move. By then, 7th Corps commander had determined that the only one enemy division had actually broken through the lines. This was a gift. He immediately ordered 2 forward brigades to seal the penetration and direct the brigade coming up from the rear, the US 2nd Brigade of the 3rd Division, to counterattack. The 39th Guards Motor Rifle Division might just be destroyed before the rest of the 8th Guards could relieve it. So that's the kind of scenario briefing that sets the story of what we're going to do. So in actual fact, we've got one division of this 39th, called the 39th Motor Rifle Division, and they are deployed in this area here. The 35th NATO Brigade, which we talked about, which is the West Germans, deployed here, and the 1st is around here. So those 2 brigades have already been engaged in combat, pushed aside by the 39th Motor Rifle Division. And then there's a new brigade coming up here, new NATO Brigade. So that's the current situation, and there's one more Soviet brigade to come, division to come on. I've got to remember there's divisions of brigades, they're coming on from up here. So that's where everything is coming on from, and this current situation. Now, how do each side actually win this darn thing? So, Warsaw Pact. The Warsaw Pact player wins a decisive victory if it has an unshattered maneuver unit south of Autobahn 3. Okay, so where is Autobahn 3? There is Autobahn 3. So, and south is over here. So you've got north is that way, south is that way. Okay. I hope that the finger pointer came out correct considering this on the camera. So yeah, so north of, south of. So they need to get a manoeuvre unit, which is any regiment, even one counter of a regiment, across there and be still there by the end of the game. They will win a decisive victory. If they don't manage to achieve that, they can win a victory as well by, well, both sides gain victory points for step losses, but also they get 1 point for each step, no matter what the state, if it's shattered or not, that is still in the area where they currently are, or south of, effectively. So in other words, NATO need to crush those, the 39th, as best as possible, before the 57th Guards arrive, coming in that way. Now, as I described in the introduction, we are using completely hidden mode. So I don't know what steps he's got in each of the actual counters, and he doesn't know what steps I've got, but we have pools of units. The 39th has already taken some losses, so that each of these motor rifle regiments should have 9 steps. They've either got 6, 7, 7 here, whereas obviously these are all at full strength because they haven't been involved in the firefight yet. Let's put that so we can actually see the whole darn thing. Okay, I'll try to remember to bring this up every time as we go through how hidden mode works and such forth. And then the NATO, again, 1st Tank Brigade, that should have had 8 steps. Should have had 8 steps, they've taken losses. 2nd Brigade actually is deployed with less infantry. I suppose it's just representing not so many of them have arrived. And then the East Germans 35th Brigade has again taken a few steps losses from its original starting strength. Okay, so just move that down there and put the map back on top. That's the current situation. Now we've got various other assets and supports, but I'll reveal those as we go along, and I'll explain rules as we go along. I'm not going to go into a full-on rules breakdown, just any sort of key facets that I think are important to understand what I'm actually doing. Let me pause there. How NATO win a decisive victory. If the Warsaw Pact wins a decisive victory, if no Warsaw Pact manoeuvre units are south of Bundesstraße 26. Where is that? That's over here somewhere. Hold on. Remember to press the mouse. Yeah, there's Bundesstraße. The yellows are the Bundesstraße, the orange are the Autobahns. So if no Soviets or Warsaw Pact units are south of that, from there all the way along here, then I win. Sorry, I should say I'm playing NATO and Tom is playing the Warsaw Pact. I think I mentioned that in the introduction, but just to clarify. So that's what's necessary for decisive. Otherwise, it's on victory points. You get a victory point for every enemy step that you take out, and you get, obviously, Warsaw Pact. Tom will get victory points, as mentioned, for each step that is still surviving in the current south of where it currently is. Okay. Now, little caveat. There are certain special rules. A NATO player can mark 5 bridges on the map as blown before the Warsaw Pact deployed, which I did. There are, if I can highlight it there is a blown bridge there, and a few others sort of dotted around, blown there, and there. So those were taken. Game turn 1 is a fog turn. Yeah, we sort of forgot that until partway through the video, so it'll come up. Yeah, so if any of you are watching and say, you forgot about fog, we did pick it up. So there's a brief breeze going on at the start of the scenario. That's clearing the mist and confusion in the fog for a short period of time. The NATO player automatically wins the initiative for the first activation cycle. Yay. And the 39th Guards does not receive a major effort chit this scenario. So major effort basically means they get to do extra stuff when they're activated. The 39th, I assume, in the write-up, the way it's described, that they've already done that. You only get one per scenario, and they've already done it before the scenario started. And there's a special rule that the West Germans can't use, which is their little counter-attack option, because they're actually on the attack in this scenario. And the game is 7 turns long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it 7 or is it 8 turns? Starting. Yeah, the last turn is turn. About we're using the entire map. And I've lost how long it lasts. Let me pause. Yeah, it lasts 7 turns, and the 7th turn is a night turn. Okay, so doing my standards, if you watched any of my videos before, that I just stepped through the log. Me and Tom have already played through this already. We've completed the first turn. We'll see how long this actually goes on for, if I do the entire turn or if I do a couple of the activations in this video. So, let's just step through. Me and Tom were talking about, as you can see, we're highlighting the roads, where things were, who's doing what. He's picking up some counters. We're talking about victory conditions at this point. And I would now say first activation is NATO. I can choose any one of those 3 brigades. I decided on the West German 35th Brigade to activate first. And they're located here. Okay. I did that. I mean, Tom was concerned that I might do the US brigade over this side of the map first, but I thought no, I wanted to see if I can get the West Germans in and also get them away from where these bad boys potentially coming in. That was the initial thoughts. Moving on. Okay. Highlighting on there, we go through the activation steps. So we've got the activation cycle. Is the first thing is reconnaissance, and you measure the range from a unit to that's going to be the spotter to a target, and then you've got to make a particular roll. So I'm checking the range there. It's recon, and it's put it on there. I need a 9 to be able to spot that hex on a 10-sided dice. Roll a 3, not spotted. Now the amount of recon I'm allowed, let's just zoom in a little bit on this map. Okay, the amount of recon I'm allowed is shown on the HQs. So with a little white dot there. There are 2 HQs. He's got 2 recon rolls and he's got 1. This is representing helicopters and scouts and such forth that are below the scale of the actual pieces, but they are doing a job as they go along. So yeah, I'm allowed 3 recon, and I can't recon the same hex twice, so I haven't spotted them, so I move on. And if you'll notice, if you're very keen on iron spotted, that one had 2 recon points, it's now got 1. I right-clicked on the counter. And I can do that. So now using that to spot. Now I could have used the same spotter. It's a range of 8 hexes, and it's going to be a 9 again. And the 9 required, it should have been a 10, but we've forgotten about the fog. Shh, it's a breeze. So 9 required, and I rolled a 9, spotted. In actual fact, I shouldn't have done, but we've gone way beyond that. Spotted, and he gets a bonus out of the spotting as well at some point. So spotted. Now, what he has to do now is reveal what's in that hex, and even he doesn't know what's in that hex. There's a revelation table to determine how many of the units from the pool are in that hex. So if we look at the unit, it has, it's 120th Guard, or the 39th Guard Division, 120th. There is up to 6 steps in there. But when you look on the revelations tables, charts and tables here, there are various modifiers, and the main one is if unit bears a deliberate defense. If you definitely want to defend a hex, you put a deliberate defense marker on it. You're allowed, now the Warsaw Pact I think is allowed, well, you could tell me on here, because NATO's allowed 2 per brigade. They're allowed 1 per division, per regiment. So once you place a deliberate defense, it gives you a +2 modifier. So you've got more likelihood of having more steps in that particular hex. Though the maximum you could get stepwise would be, rolling a 12 would be 6 for the Warsaw Pact. So his roll reveals that with a 7, he will get 3 steps in that unit. And I say, he wouldn't have even known that. He just put a unit there in the hope that some boys would be there. They could have been, if he'd rolled a 0, that would have been a dummy. Sorry, a 0 and a 1, that would have been dummy because it's not got his deliberate defense marker. So, yes, we've seen it. Okay. Now has 5 steps. Why has he got 5 steps? Don't know what's going on. Don't worry about that. There's only 3 in there. Oh, he's taking it down. Right. Okay. Then my last recon roll. I'm sort of counting through the hexes. Range. I'm trying to think. Let's see if we can find his artillery. And recon 9 again. No. Failed. Okay. So we're now into fire strike. I've only got 1 target, so I might as well fire at it. All right. Emphasizing this area here of the map. Making sure it's in range. I've got some artillery here. Let's zoom in a little bit. Can we zoom in? Goes a little bit too broad there, but there's the acquired target. There's the artillery. On the counters, that 15 is the range. And that unit's got 60 in range. So both, I'll place the fire marker on both of them. 10 to strike. 10 strike. Okay. What have I meant there? Rolled a 9, which is 2 step losses. So the way you add up, so there's 4 times 3 is 12. All right, so there's 4 is the initial attack value next to the 16. The amount of steps is 3, so 4 threes is 12 from that unit. From this unit, it's 3 times 3 is 9. 12 plus 9 is 21. You then half it and round down. Everything gets what's called the division by half. So that goes to 10. So that's a strike of 10 onto that hex there. Okay. I rolled a 9, which gives me a +2 modifier. So the combat results table gives a slight maximum swing is -3 to +3. Actual to the hit, to the actual strike of the dice there. So the 10 strike could have been a maximum of 13 hits or minimum 7 hits. So in this case, with a 9, I got +2, so I did a total of 12 hits. With 12 hits, you then look at the unit that's in that hex. It's got the first number, the 3, is its combat value, and then you've got the symbol, and then the second number, so the one on the right, is its defense value, which is also 3 in this case. You then look at that 3, and there's a defense chart, terrain effects chart. He's in the heavy woods there. He gets +3 to his defense strength, so they've actually got a defense strength of 6. Then you say, right, okay, I did 12 hits. The first hit will take 6 off that, because that's the defense strength. That's 1 step loss. Then the second will be the second step loss. That's why it's put 2 steps lost. So if I'd only rolled a +1, that would have been 11. That would have been first step loss, and there's only 5 hits left, which is not enough to cause the second step loss. So therefore, only 1 step is, well, 2 steps removed from that unit, and NATO gains 2 victory points. So, and the hex then becomes disrupted as well, which makes it a bit vulnerable to attack. So that was my 5 strike step. We're now into operations. So let me zoom back out again. Okay, and I'm moving forward here. Right, so moving along the minor roads is half a movement point per hex. That's 2, 3 there into the woods, 6 into the heavy woods, and then they get marked. I put the counters to mark that and show that they are ops completed. Now, so with NATO, you are activating a task force, which is a maximum of 4 steps, and yeah, that's effectively it. Warsaw Pact can do activate to do an operation with a regiment of up to 9 steps. NATO restricted to a task force of maximum 4 steps. I'm too far away to do an attack, so all of my operations with this division at the brigade at the present moment are purely manoeuvre to get into position for turn 2 when the fog lifts, which I've forgotten about. And I put both of those units. I'm only allowed 2 deliberate defence markers for the entire brigade. I put both of those onto deliberate defence because I want to hold that hex in case he decides to counterattack. So the rest of the division, brigade, move up. So as I say, I don't know which of these counters are exactly at full strength. These are hope. That's why I'll put the deliberate defence on that, because I would definitely want some steps in there. With a deliberate defence, there's always something there, maybe not as full strength as you would like. Then I move my engineers, which I should have placed at the start in these locations to actually build improved positions. But an engineer can only do an engineering function if it hasn't moved. So yeah, didn't think about that, did I? So that is them done. we then had a little discussion, and we're now on to the 39th Guards activation. Okay. So before I actually began my activation, he did all his planning. This is where the game's slightly asynchronous. He has to plan all of his operations on this little chart here. Now, I'm assuming I'm not allowed to see what markers he's actually placed there, though I can see them on the 57th Guards. I'm not sure why I can't see them. Whilst we're playing, because we've been playing this live, I wasn't having a look at them. So there we go. I just know what he was saying. So let's see how he is activated. All right, so he's doing some recon now, because the steps that the activation cycle goes through is activation segment. He activated this 39th Division. Now he activates by division. I activate by brigade, or say Warsaw Pact activate by division. NATO activate by brigade. First step is redeployment. You can do a redeployment with hidden mode only. We haven't needed to do that yet. Reconnaissance segment is what he's doing now, and the Soviets generally have a bit more reconnaissance assets. Again, looking at the HQs, so if I zoom in on this area of the map, you can see he's got recon, which is the ones in the white circles on the HQ. That's how many recon attempts he's actually got. Zoom back out again. So he wants to know, he wants to recon that hex, A, to see what's in there, and B, you have to be able to do an artillery strike on something, you've got to be able to see it. So in other words, recon, you've got to acquire the hex. Reconnaissance roll was a 2. Not good enough. And then he does the next hex. Range 2, heavy woods, roll of 8. Yes, he has acquired that. So now I roll to see how many units are in there. So it's my revelation roll. I rolled a 1 for the army unit, and that meant there was no armor actually there. So I just removed the counter. No armor. The mech unit, I rolled a 2. That's a minimum of 1 step. So there's 1 step of infantry. So what it's representing, the orders were told to go and get some armor over there, but during the command confusion and orders getting delayed, lost, and such forth, the armored unit didn't receive the instruction. So they're still somewhere along the roads here, elsewhere involved, not where I need them at the front line. Okay, the text is now acquired. He's now looking to see if he can find that unit. 4 hexes now there. Does he find them? Range heavy woods, he rolls an 8. He would have needed... He rolls an 8. Yeah, this is where he gets his bonus for spotting them. He actually needed a 9, I think. Let's have a look. Checking the charts. We've got a nice chart book for this. I wish they'd have put the charts in alphabet. They seem to be all over the place. I mean, it works. There's an index and such forth. The index is not in alphabetical order. The charts aren't in alphabetical order. They're not in even game turn order. So sometimes it's a little bit of a pain to find which chart where it is and such forth. There must have been a method in their madness. I just haven't deciphered or worked out what the madness and what the method was. So heavy woods there at 4 hex range. Yeah, he needed a 7. So he rolled an 8. So yeah, +1 for the fog. All right, so he would have found it anyway. Okay. Revelation roll 7. That tells me that there are 2 steps in that unit. So there they are. If we look closely at that unit, bring it up, it's only got a defense of 2. Not very strong. And you'll see the consequences of that in a moment. Strike segment. Okay, so he's doing what's called an army call, which you can bring up to 2 artillery units into the involved. You place 1 marker here to fire, and 1 marker here to fire. Okay, so looking at the math there, so let's go through that. So that's got 3 steps at 6, which is 18. and he's got from that one hasn't got a step marker on it because it's only a one-step unit. So 1 at 8. So 18 plus 8 is 26. Then divide by 2 equals 13. Okay, so again, looking at the mass, my defence in that woods is 2. Heavy woods makes their defence 4 or plus 4. So their defence is 6. See, and they're starting to see the problem. Oh, wait, heavy defence. Hold on. Heavy woods. Heavy woods defence is plus 3. Sorry, yeah. Plus 3. Light woods is plus 2. So 2 plus 3 is 5. And he's hitting 13 already. They're going to die. Because even if he rolls, I said the worst you can get is a -3. The best you can get is +3. So he's got a range of hitting from 10 to 16. But to wipe those 2 steps out, they've only got a defence of 5. He only needs 10, so they're gone, no matter what he rolls. Making sure everything's in range. Rolls a 4, -1 is 12. Yeah, they're gone. And they are removed. He gains 2 victory points for that. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have moved them so close. But you learn in this game. You do learn. Right. And he's now doing... I decided, well, can I do some counter battery here? So I've got a very large rocket unit over here. It's got 3 steps. And I thought, well, can I see them? So there's a counter battery fire. So you measure the range from one of the maneuver units of the spotting division or brigade, and then you can fire. Only one unit can fire, even though you fired 2 artillery. We did have a bit of rules discussion about this. It was clarified in the rules that no matter how many artillery had 2 artillery units involved in the attack, I could only counter battery fire at one of them. And I thought, well, let's do that. And the advantage of doing the counter battery, as we found out when we started to work out, oh, wait a minute, we've forgotten about fog, is that counter battery would not be affected by the fog. So that would have been useful. Yeah. Okay. And I need quite a high, I think it was counter battery, I need a 7 or more. Measure the range. Boom. Did I get it? 7 required. Roll a 3. Darn it! And because they tried, they are marked as fired. Because technically they have fired. Okay. This is where we're having our discussion. Can something else fire? No. 117th Guards is on a hasty. So there's 3, well, in fact, there's 4 things, types of operation you've got. Hasty attack, march, assault, mind blank for a moment there, and finally is reserve. You mark the Soviet player will mark these as in the before the operations and in the activation cycle. You'll mark what each regiment is doing, whereas NATO can choose to do them on the fly, as it were. So he'd already pre-programmed this particular regiment to go on a hasty attack because he thought I was going to be bringing these guys forward first, which I wasn't. Because if I had brought these guys forward, they'd have been sitting around here. He could have then attacked them. So, but I didn't. Anywho, hasty attack. And that's 117th Guard, which is not those ones. The yellow ones, orange ones. There we go, 117th Guard. Regiment of the 39th Division, Guard Division. Okay. Now, when you do a hasty attack, you can still move 6 movement points, but only for the Warsaw Pact, the first 3 movement points can use road. The rest has to be non-road. Hence why he's done what he did there. Okay, they're done. Then these guys move. So, oh, you must be measuring ranges there. It looks like he's planning to attack across this river. So he definitely wants to get part of the 39th Guards. He's not hunkering down, he's pushing. Okay, to get across that river. Because one thing that's the Warsaw Pact are good at is river assaults with their BMPs. Okay. And that's where I went, oops, fog. Is now descended after a surprise breeze. Yeah, it's amazing how much you can forget when you're focusing on the rules to actually play it right. You then forget one of the easiest things to remember. But we didn't forget it from then on. Back to NATO. Okay, so we've had one NATO brigade activated, one Warsaw Pact division activated. Now, I could technically pass at this point, and then it would go back to him. And if he passed, it would go back to me again. And if I passed again, that would be the turnover. So it's a bit of double jeopardy, but I didn't pass. I did remind him at this point, would he like to, because I decided to operate the 2nd US Brigade, I did remind him that he can set deliberate defences. He went, ah, yes. There we go. So I'm not going to do in this video the 2nd US Brigade. That'll be in the next one. So in the next one, we've still got the 2nd US Brigade and the 1st US Brigade and the 57th Guard Warsaw Division. So let's go back up to the top. If I can actually find where I go to end this video. Okay, so I'm a little bit surprised by what is actually going on so far, with the 39th Guards actually starting to continue the offensive. I have just in my mind that he was going to hunker down. So I'm a little bit perturbed by the strength that he's actually now already brought to the river. And I also realise that I actually aren't as strong as I think I am. That 39th Division that has lost a few steps is still quite strong. So, you know, there's those two regiments I've got to deal with that are now at the river, because if they get across, I've got nothing on the other bank. Didn't think of that one. So that's going to be an interesting when turn 2 turns up, because then it's a random dice who actually has the initiative. But, well, because my 2nd US Brigade, which I'm just about to activate, they're a bit too far away. I mean, well, I can tell you they're going to attack one of his units, but they can't really engage the whole of the divisions that he's got there. So it's going to be who's going to go first on turn 2, which we haven't even played yet. So, yeah, that's going to be in, not the next video, which is the rest of turn 1, but it'll be in the video after that. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you thought. You know, could have done something better. Sorry about the fog. Happens. There are one or two other little mistakes that we made during the turn, but we do bring them up in the text, and I will mention them. Do you want me to go in more details about how, you know, the rules whilst we're playing, or would you prefer, you know, lighter rules impact? You've seen the rules, don't want to see any more. Blah, blah. Just let me know. If you could do all that YouTube stuff, like. It doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what I do and you haven't done so already. Remember to hit that little notification bell. Is that all the YouTube stuff that I've got to mention? Yeah, memberships are available. Yeah, all that rest of it. Just come back. Hope you enjoy it. I enjoy playing games. It's a long time since I've done one of these videos. If it was a bit rusty, I'll get better at it again. Until next time then, guys. Bye, Internet.